When I was 10 years old, my dad passed away unexpectedly. But then, the lawyer asked me if I wanted to go with my biological mom, or take the 200 million my father left behind. In my past life, I cried and screamed that I wanted my mom. But the moment she got her hands on my dad's death compensation, she turned right around and married old Wang from next door. Oh, wait, I mean Uncle Zhao. And just like that, I became a dead weight to them. In the end, I was literally worked to death on a construction site. I was only 28 when I died. Looking back at that pathetic, laughable life, I was an absolute fool from beginning to end. But now, the crossroads of fate has appeared once again. The woman in front of me is weeping, looking like a delicate flower in the rain. Lao Ning, how could you just leave us? Leaving me and our child all alone. How are we supposed to survive? Ah, she cried so heart-wrenchingly, her whole body slumping like mud. If someone wasn't holding her up, she would have collapsed right onto the floor. In my previous life, I was completely fooled by this act of hers. I thought she was truly heartbroken, absolutely devastated. I thought she couldn't go on living without me, so I threw myself at her, hugging her legs, crying and begging to stay with her. But what happened? She took the compensation money my dad traded his life for, and in less than 3 months, she joyfully got married. Married to that man she claimed had been taking care of us. Zhao Chang. My dad's ashes weren't even cold yet, and that bastard had already moved into our house, sleeping on the very bed my dad used to sleep on. Meanwhile, I became an eyesore. An unwanted extra, a complete burden they wished would just disappear. Zhao Chang had a son who was 2 years older than me. He saw me as a thorn in his side. And Lilan? To suck up to her new stepson, she beat and cursed me, showing no mercy whatsoever. The money my dad left behind became their personal fund for a life of luxury. It became my stepbrother's allowance to pick up girls and show off his wealth, while I had to scrape together my own tuition fees by picking up trash. I didn't even finish high school before they kicked me out to work. They dressed it up nicely, saying boys need to learn to be independent early. I hauled bricks on a construction site for 10 whole years, until finally, completely overworked, I collapsed. I fell face first onto a pile of scalding hot steel rebar, and never woke up again. But now, I'm back. Lilan hugged me tightly. Xiaoyi, don't be afraid. Mom will take good care of you from now on. She held me close, rubbing her tears and snot all over my face. But deep down in her eyes, she was hiding something. A subtle, twisted eagerness and greed. Seeing this, I didn't burst into tears like I did in my past life. Instead, I just watched her put on her little show with cold, dead eyes. Right then, my dad's best friend walked over. He was also his acting lawyer. Uncle Zhou. Lawyer Zhou let out a heavy sigh and patted my shoulder. Then, he pulled a document out of his briefcase. Lilan. Xiaoyi, this is the will Brother Ning drafted before he passed away. Lawyer Zhou's voice was incredibly heavy. Brother Ning took every possible situation into account. He has 200 million in assets under his name, which has already been notarized. Right now, there are 2 choices. Option 1. Xiaoyi goes with you. And this money, serving as compensation and child support, will be held by you in a trust until Xiaoyi reaches adulthood. Hearing that, Lilan's breathing instantly became rapid. A terrifying gleam erupted in her eyes as she stared dead at the will. Second, if Xiaoyi chooses not to go with you, the money will be transferred into a trust fund, which I will oversee. Xiaoyi will have sole control over it, and you, Lilan, will not get a single cent. The air in the room seemed to freeze in an instant. Everyone's eyes were drawn straight to me, a 10-year-old kid. Lilan's body visibly stiffened up. She glared at Lawyer Zhou in sheer disbelief, as if saying, how could you even offer that choice? But immediately after, she slapped on a look of absolute devastation, grabbing me in a crushing hug. Lilan, wailed Lawyer Zhou. How could you say such a thing? How could I ever abandon my own son? Xiaoyi is my entire world. Yet as she wailed, she viciously pinched my arm, whispering a fierce threat in my ear. Ning Yi, if you dare say the wrong thing, I'll beat you to death. You are my son. Your money is my money. In my past life, that threat left me trembling in fear, but I was also moved by her crying that, "Mommy can't live without you." But now? It just makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. I could feel her hand shaking as she pinched me. Not from grief, but from pure, nervous excitement. 200 million. She'd never seen that kind of cash in her entire life. She was already fantasizing about how she'd spend it, dreaming of her perfect life running away with Xiao Chang. Slowly, inch by inch, I pulled myself away. Pulling out of her suffocating embrace. I looked up, meeting Lawyer Zhou's astonished gaze. Every word I spoke was crystal clear. "Uncle Zhou, I choose the second option. I choose the 200 million. The entire morning hall instantly went dead silent. You could literally hear a pin drop. Everyone looked like somebody had hit the pause button, just staring at me in shock. The devastated look on Li Lan's face froze, then completely shattered, twisting into sheer, hideous disbelief. She shrieked, "Ning Yi! What did you just say?" Her voice was so shrill it could pierce eardrums. I calmly repeated myself. My voice wasn't loud, but it cut like a knife. I said, "I don't want you. I want the money." Li Lan roared, "Are you insane? You ungrateful little brat. I am your real mother." Li Lan completely lost it. She lunged at me like a madwoman, raising her hand to slap me across the face. But a strong hand caught her wrist. It was Lawyer Zhou. Lawyer Zhou's face was stern. "Li Lan, get a hold of yourself. We are standing in front of Brother Ning's memorial. And this is Xiao Yi's own choice. He's just a kid. What does he know? You definitely put him up to this." Lawyer Zhou shook off her hand in disgust and said, "I will say this one more time. This is Brother Ning's will, and it is legally binding. Since Xiao Yi has made his decision, I will initiate the necessary procedures immediately. From now on, you are no longer his legal guardian." Li Lan was absolutely stunned. She stared at me, her eyes burning with pure resentment and bitter disbelief. It was like she was looking at a sworn enemy. She probably couldn't wrap her head around it. How could her weak, obedient little boy suddenly turn into someone so utterly cold and unrecognizable? I couldn't care less about her anymore. I walked over to Lawyer Zhou, tugged at his sleeve, and asked, "Uncle Zhou, did my dad know all along?" Lawyer Zhou flinched visibly. He crouched down and looked deep into my eyes. After a long, heavy pause, he gave a pained nod. "Your dad was a brilliant man. He just loved you too much." Those words made my eyes instantly well up with tears. Of course. My dad was so incredibly smart. How could he possibly be blind to Li Lan's cheating ways? He just wanted to give me a complete family. So he swallowed his pride and held it all in, until he was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Knowing his days were numbered, he paved this escape route just for me. I was such a complete fool in my past life. I ruined my father's dying act of love with my own hands. But this time, I won't make that mistake again. I'm taking the 200 million. Li Lan was eventually dragged away by our relatives. Right before she left, she shot me a look so venomous, it burned itself into my memory for an entire lifetime. But I didn't care. Not even a little bit. The exact second I made my choice, the bond between mother and son was completely severed. All that was left was pure hatred. Lawyer Zhou became my new legal guardian. He was an honest, rock-solid guy. After we held my dad's funeral, Lawyer Zhou took me in to live at his place. Once I settled in, he showed me a massive list of investments. These were all the projects my dad had been researching with him before he passed. But I just flipped straight to the very last page. "Uncle Zhou, sell everything on the earlier pages." Lawyer Zhou was totally shocked. "Xiao Yi, wait, these are all blue dash chip stocks. Your dad handpicked every single one of them. They are incredibly stable." I shook my head. "It's too slow." I reached out and tapped my finger on the list, pointing right at a few completely unremarkable names. "Dump every last penny into these companies. Lawyer Zhou furrowed his brows tightly. Penguin? Ollie? What on earth are these? I've never even heard of them. Xiao Yi, investing isn't a game. Uncle Zhou, did you trust my dad? He froze for a second. Of course I did, he nodded. Then trust me this one time. My dad came to me in a dream and told me to do this. It was the absolute lamest excuse I could think of. But Lawyer Zhou just looked into my eyes. Eyes that were far too dead calm for a 10-year-old kid. And, as if possessed, he actually nodded. What he didn't know was that the names I just pointed at would shake up the entire world over the next decade, rising up as the most massive corporate giants in history. And I was going to be the mysterious shadow shareholder standing right behind them. With all of that finally set in stone, I let out a massive breath of relief. Then, I set my ultimate goal for this new life. Coasting through life. Yep, I'm just gonna completely slack off. In my past life, I worked myself half to death for absolutely nothing. But this time, I'm living in total comfort. I had Lawyer Zhou enroll me in the best private school in town. And definitely not so I could study hard. Was just because the environment there was nice, and the cafeteria had awesome food. I started working out. Not for any deep reason, just so I could get an 8-pack, V-lines, and look damn good in my clothes. I started researching the 8 great Chinese cuisines and learned to brew my own wine, not to become some master chef, but just to satisfy my own cravings. I tossed all the annoying paperwork to Lawyer Zhou, and later, to the elite professional team he set up for me. The guy in charge was Old Wu, a top-tier hotshot straight from Wall Street. I poached him with triple his usual salary. I only had one rule for him. Don't bother me. If something comes up, handle it yourself. If you can't handle it, just let the company go bankrupt. Old Wu looked at me back then like I was some clueless, prodigal son of a wealthy landlord. But, he still followed my orders to the letter. And so, my life became something like this. Boss. The stock for Penn Gwyn Company just tripled again. We made 5 billion. Oh, got it. Don't bother me right now, I'm researching. Buddha jumps over the wall. Boss. Ollie Company is about to go public. Our initial shares are expected to break 100 billion. Yeah, got it. Come here and tell me how this new batch of yellow wine tastes. Boss. That plot of land you randomly bought last time? The government is turning it into the new central business district. The value just skyrocketed by 100 times. Old Wu gradually got used to my hardcore slacker lifestyle. He even started filtering out all those trivial, billion-dollar, small deals on his own. As for me, I was straying further and further down the path of lying flat. My personal wealth was like a rolling snowball, growing completely out of control. But honestly, I was totally numb to the numbers by then. All I cared about was how to make my life as comfortable as humanly possible. I became a mysterious legend among the ultra-rich elites. Nobody knew who I really was. They only knew of a mysterious Mr. Ning, a guy with enough wealth to rival entire nations, but who remained completely elusive. That was, until I turned 18. The appearance of one particular woman completely shattered my peaceful, lazy life. Xiao Wanqing. My ex-fiancé. Our engagement was a childhood arrangement, set up by our grandfathers. After my dad passed away, our family fell on hard times, and nobody ever brought up the marriage again. But no one could have predicted that the inheritance my dad left behind would blow up into a massive business empire 10 years later. Even though I deliberately kept a low profile, the Ning family's sudden comeback still caught the Xiao family's attention. So, on the exact day of my 18th birthday, the Xiao family's patriarch personally showed up at my doorstep with his precious granddaughter in tow. He dressed it up nicely, saying they were here to honor the old engagement. The very first time I laid eyes on Xiao Wanqing was right there in Lawyer Zhou's living room. She was wearing a perfectly tailored white skirt suit, with her long hair meticulously tied back into a flawless bun. She wore exquisite, light makeup. She was absolutely gorgeous, sure, but she was like a walking iceberg, radiating a freezing, stay the hell away from me aura. She was your textbook Iron Lady. Raised from birth to be the family heir, hyper-rational, fiercely strong, and totally cold-blooded. Rumor had it she snagged 2 doctorates by the time she was 20, and completely took over the family business by 22. Her ruthless methods made even the shrewdest old foxes in the business world think twice. Her world revolved solely around her career, profits, and data. Emotions were nothing but the most useless weakness. You get what I mean, right? She sat across from me with her legs crossed. Her gaze swept over me like a scanner, taking me in with blatant scrutiny and sheer contempt. I had just gotten back from the gym, wearing a loose set of sweats. My hair was still damp with sweat. Yeah, I muttered back lazily. Leaning back on the couch, I casually grabbed an apple and took a bite. My careless attitude clearly ticked her off. She furrowed her brow. I heard you dropped out after high school. Yeah. Studying is just too much work. So what exactly do you do now? I work out, cook, brew wine, and figure out the most comfortable way to lay on the couch. I told her the absolute truth. Xiao. Wanqing's lips curled into a mocking smirk. So, you are just some good-for-nothing rich kid? Yeah, you could look at it that way. I shrugged, not caring at all. She let out a cold scoff, the disdain in her eyes growing even stronger. Ning Yi, let's just put all our cards on the table. This whole engagement was just a joke between our grandfathers. We can't possibly take it seriously. My husband, the man who marries Xiao Wanqing, must be a powerhouse who can actually stand as my equal. Not some useless piece of trash who only knows how to eat, drink, and screw around. So what? I looked right back at her, thoroughly amused. So, I want you to go to my grandfather yourself and call off this ridiculous engagement. She ordered, her tone completely bossy. As compensation, I can write you a very generous check. Or, I can even set you up with a nice, easy job at our company. I almost choked on my apple. Give me money? Offer me a job? Did she have any idea that the Xiao group she was so damn proud of didn't even amount to a fraction of my own net worth? Looking at her sitting there, acting all high and mighty, I suddenly found the whole situation hilarious. In my past life, I didn't even have the right to look at her. Yet in this life, here she was, sitting right in front of me, using that condescending, charitable tone to offer me compensation. I wiped my mouth and gave a cheerful smile. Sure thing. Xiao Wanqing froze for a second. She clearly hadn't expected me to agree so easily. What exactly do you want for compensation? She quickly put her icy mask back on. I don't want your money, and I don't want a job. I stood up, walked right over to her, and leaned down close to her ear. She instinctively tried to pull back, but her body just completely froze. I could catch the scent of her icy, sharp perfume. I lowered my voice, whispering so that only the two of us could hear. I want you to go to your grandfather yourself and tell him that you are the one who isn't good enough for me, Ning Yi. Xiao Wanqing's pupils shrank sharply in shock. She had probably never heard anything so arrogant in her entire life. She shoved me away and shot up to her feet, her pretty face flushed bright red with pure rage. Ning Yi. Don't you dare push your luck. Push my luck? Respect is something you earn, not something you're handed. I dropped back onto the couch and crossed my legs. Miss Xiao, you were the one who looked down on me first. Am I wrong? She glared down at me from her high horse. What exactly are people like you good for, other than just being born into a lucky family? You just slack off all day, wasting space and waiting to die. How are you any different from a parasite? The difference is, I actually want to. I shrugged. It's my life, and I call the shots. Unlike some people, living like a tightly wound machine, calculating the pros and cons of every single emotion. My words clearly hit a nerve. She went a shade paler and clenched her fists. We're on completely different paths. There's no point in forcing this. I'll take care of canceling the engagement. From now on, we have absolutely nothing to do with each other. With that, she spun on her heel and walked away without looking back. Her haughty silhouette looked just like a defeated, yet fiercely proud white swan. Lawyer Zhou stepped out of the study, looking deeply worried. Xiao Yi, aren't you being a bit too impulsive? The Xiao family holds a lot of power in the capital. Don't worry, Uncle Zhou. She's the one who wanted to break the engagement. It's not like I kicked her out. Besides, how much potential could someone possibly have if they can't even take charge of their own marriage? I stared in the direction where Xiao Wanqing had disappeared, my eyes completely void of emotion. In my past life, she was the bright moon hanging high in the sky, and I wasn't even worthy of looking up at her. But in this life? To me, she's just a pathetic puppet trapped by her own family. I can't wait to see the look of absolute devastation on her face later. That's going to be so damn fun. The whole engagement drama blew over pretty quickly. Xiao Wanqing was a woman of her word. Only a few days later, the Xiao family officially announced the cancellation of our engagement. I was more than happy to finally have some peace and quiet, going back to my laid-back lifestyle. Old Wu still called like clockwork every single day, reporting how many more millions I had raked in. My personal net worth had already ballooned into a terrifying number that I couldn't even be bothered to keep track of. But despite all that, I kept wearing my cheap $20 tracksuits, and drove an ordinary commuter car back and forth between the gym and the grocery market, until one day, in a dessert shop on the verge of going out of business, I met an angel. It was tucked away deep in an alley of the old town. The shop was tiny, but it had this beautiful, vintage charm. They sold traditional Chinese desserts that were practically lost to time. I was drawn in by a handwritten wooden sign at the door. Today's special, osmanthus sugar steamed chestnut cake. It was the exact same dessert my dad used to make for me all the time when I was a kid. I pushed the door open, and the wind chime let out a crisp, cheerful ring. A girl in a pale cyan qipao walked out from the back kitchen. Her long hair flowed all the way down to her waist, totally makeup-free. She looked a little startled, like a deer caught off guard. The second I saw her, my heart skipped a beat. It was the most surreal feeling. She didn't have that sharp, aggressive kind of beauty like Xiao Wanqing did. Instead, she was like a clear spring, pure and untainted. Just looking at her made my soul feel at peace. Excuse me, do you still have any of the osmanthus sugar steamed chestnut cake? I managed to ask, my voice coming out surprisingly hoarse. The girl blinked in surprise, then broke into the most gentle smile. It was like a soft spring breeze rippling across a quiet lake. Yes, we do. Please, take a seat. I'll bring it right out for you. Even her voice was beautiful, so soft and sweet. I found a seat by the window and sat down. Soon enough, she walked over with a plate of exquisite pastries and set it down right in front of me. The chestnut cake was molded into tiny plum blossoms, beautifully garnished with crystal clear osmanthus sugar. It gave off this mouth-watering, sweet aroma. I picked up a piece and popped it into my mouth. Oh man, this is it. This is the exact flavor. It tasted exactly like the one my dad used to make. A wave of warmth came rushing up from the very bottom of my heart. My eyes actually welled up a little. So, how is it? Is it delicious? The girl sat down opposite me, her hands propping up her chin, looking at me with such expectation. I truly praised it. It tastes just like my dad's. Really? Her eyes lit up. This dessert recipe was passed down from my grandma. She said very few people know how to make it anymore. Your grandma must have been incredible. She proudly puffed out her little chest. She was. My name is Shin Yuchu, and this shop is mine. What about you? I'm Ning Yi. We chatted like old friends. Only then did I learn about her family's profound knowledge, and that her ancestors were imperial chefs. She'd been immersed in these traditional crafts since she was a child. She didn't like the typical 9-to-5 grind of big corporations, so she opened this little shop of her own, just wanting to pass down these wonderful flavors. Her values, I realized, were strikingly similar to my own. We both enjoyed a slower pace of life and shared a nearly stubborn love for traditional culture. That afternoon, I just sat there in her small dessert shop, and we talked for what felt like ages. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, falling on her, bathing her in a golden halo. I watched her bright, sparkling eyes as she spoke, and the endearing smile that would unconsciously bloom on her face. Something in my heart felt like it was being filled. I suddenly felt my heart, which had become aged and hardened by my rebirth, began to soften once more. From that day on, Shinyochu's dessert shop became my new haunt. I went every single day, without fail. Sometimes, it was to try a new dessert she'd carefully crafted, or sometimes to enjoy a cup of tea she'd brewed herself. More often than not, I just sat there, quietly watching her work. She was always busy, she was the only one in the shop, handling everything from preparing ingredients, making desserts, serving customers, and cleaning. She did it all herself, yet she never complained. A content smile always graced her face. I started learning to help her. At first, it was just washing dishes. Later, I helped with cooking. And then, she even allowed me into her sacred back kitchen to watch her make her desserts. Her kitchen wasn't large, but it was meticulously tidy. Every utensil was arranged perfectly. She was so focused when she worked, like a devoted artist. Watching her slender hands transform ordinary ingredients into exquisite works of art, such a pleasure. One time, I was helping her move a heavy bag of flour. I had just finished my workout, so I was only wearing a tight-fitting sports vest. Shinyochu was standing behind me, watching my muscles bulge with the effort, her cheeks slightly flushed. "Ning Yi," she said, "your physique is really great." I put down the bag, turned, and deliberately puffed out my chest. "Wanna feel?" I thought she'd shy away and run off. I didn't expect she'd actually reach out. Her fingertips were slightly cool, carrying a hint of sweet sticky rice fragrance. They gently poked the grooves of my abs. Whoa, so hard. She stared with her eyes wide open, like she'd just discovered a whole new world. My body instantly tensed up. A rush of heat shot straight from my stomach to the top of my head. I've lived 2 lifetimes. But this was the absolute first time I'd ever been teased by a girl like this. Looking at her innocent, curious face, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I grabbed her mischievous little hand. Her hand was incredibly soft, almost like it had no bones. I lowered my voice and leaned in close to her ear. Her face instantly flushed deep red, like a ripe apple. She quickly snatched her hand back, turned around, and bolted out of the kitchen. I watched her run away in a total panic, and just couldn't help but laugh. This girl, she's just way too cute. Through these little daily interactions, our relationship slowly started to warm up. We had endless things to talk about. From gourmet food to brewing wine, from kunku opera to the guqin. I realized she was exactly like a hidden treasure. She always brought me new surprises. She could play the guzheng, paint beautiful ink wash paintings. And she even knew how to make her own traditional rouge. She was like a graceful maiden who had time traveled, straight out of ancient times, radiating this beautiful classical charm. Whenever I was with her, I felt like the whole world just slowed down, becoming peaceful and beautiful. My heart, which originally just wanted to slack off and do nothing, finally started to skip a beat. I started looking forward to seeing her every single day, looking forward to her smile, our little bickers, and all those cute, unconscious little habits of hers. I even started to think, if I could have her by my side every day for the rest of my life, that wouldn't be so bad. I gave her dessert shop a special, exclusive nickname. My Imperial Kitchen. And in return, she gave me a nickname. The Lazy Landlord. She said I just goofed off every single day, only showing up at her place to collect rent and hogging all the best desserts she made. I knew we were only one step away from making it official, but breaking through that final barrier actually took an unexpected accident. That day, some rich kid driving a sports car walked into the shop and immediately laid eyes on Shinyochu. With his greasy hair and powdered face, he started talking to her with zero respect. He walked right up and demanded to rent out the entire shop, just so Shinyochu would entertain him. Of course, Shinyochu refused. Humiliated and furious, the rich kid threw a massive tantrum and smashed a whole bunch of stuff in the shop. I was in the kitchen testing out a new recipe at the time. The second I heard the commotion outside, I instantly rushed out. Seeing the complete mess of the storefront, and Shinyochu's pale, terrified little face, an uncontrollable rage just exploded. inside me. In 2 whole lifetimes, I had never been this furious. I stepped right in front of Shin Yu-chu and glared coldly at that rich punk. Get the hell out. Who the hell are you? How dare you stick your nose in my business? The rich kid arrogantly pointed right at my face. I didn't say a word. I just pulled out my phone and dialed Old Wu's number. Old Wu, run a license plate number for me. I want him and his family's company completely gone from Jingxing in 5 minutes. The rich kid froze for a second, then burst into a fit of hysterical laughter. You're killing me. What, do you think you're in a movie? 5 minutes to wipe out my family? Do you have any idea who my dad is? I just stared at him quietly, like I was looking at a dead man. Less than 3 minutes later, the rich kid's phone rang. He picked it up, and the smirk on his face instantly froze. What, Dad? What did you just say? The company accounts are frozen? All our partnerships are cancelled? How is that even possible? Who did I offend? His voice trembled with sheer terror. Finally, with a loud thud, he dropped to his knees. The phone slipped from his hand. He looked up, staring at me like I was some kind of monster. His lips were quivering, but he couldn't get a single word out. Can you get the hell out of here now? I said coldly. He stumbled and crawled as he ran out the door, abandoning even his flashy sports car. The shop fell completely quiet again. Shin Yu-chu stared at me, her beautiful eyes filled with shock and a hint of admiration. You. I turned to face her, gently wiping the tear stains from her cheeks. Don't be afraid. I'm right here. Before she could even react, I leaned down and kissed her slightly cool lips. Shin Yu-chu's lips were exactly as soft as I had imagined, tasting like sweet osmanthus candy. She froze at first, stiffening up like a startled little fawn. But then she slowly relaxed, clumsily kissing me back. The kiss was light, soft, yet it hit my heart like a jolt of electricity. It took a long time before I finally, reluctantly, let her go. She kept her head down, her face burning bright red, too shy to even look at me. Shin Yu-chu. I gently cupped her face, making her meet my eyes, and asked her completely seriously, will you be my girlfriend? She bit her lip, her long eyelashes fluttering like the delicate wings of a butterfly. After what felt like forever, she let out a tiny, barely audible hum. Amichum. I broke into a huge smile, grinning like an absolute idiot. I pulled her tightly into my arms, feeling like I had the entire world right there in my embrace. In 2 lifetimes of existence, this was the very first time I truly understood what love and happiness felt like. Her muffled voice came from against my chest. You were really scary just now. Did I scare you? You ruined an entire company with just a single phone call. Ning Yi, who exactly are you? Looking into her clear, innocent eyes, I knew I couldn't keep her in the dark anymore. I told you before, I'm just a big landlord who loves to chill and do nothing. I gently booped her nose. It's just that I own a whole lot of land, that's all. I gave her the selective, edited version of my story. Of course, I completely left out the whole reincarnation secret. I only told her that my dad had left me a massive inheritance, and that I used the money to make some investments and earned a little pocket change. Shin Yu-chu blinked. A little pocket change? The kind of a pocket change that can bankrupt a company in 5 minutes? Exactly how little is that? I thought about it for a second, trying to put it in terms she'd understand. Well, if we're talking about your dessert shop, I could probably buy tens of thousands of them. Shin Yu-chu gasped in shock. She started counting on her fingers, doing the math for a good while, before staring at me in absolute disbelief. You're a multi-billionaire? I nodded. She instantly went completely silent. My heart started beating faster, feeling a wave of anxiety. I was terrified that she would back away from me because of the massive wealth gap between us. To my surprise, after a long silence, he suddenly looked up at me, dead serious. Ning Yi, listen to me carefully. From now on, your money is my money, and my money is still my money. I froze for a second, then burst out laughing. I picked him up and spun him around in circles. All right, whatever you say, my chief of the imperial kitchen. He was so dizzy from the spinning. He could only cling to my neck, letting out a laugh as clear as silver bells. I knew I hadn't chosen the wrong person. The one I loved was Shin Yu-chu for who he was, not for some wealthy halo around him. After getting together with Shin Yu-chu, my slacker life became so much more colorful. We developed new desserts together, brewed new wines together. He dragged me to the early morning farmers market, arguing over 10 cents with the vendors, until he was red in the face. I would also take him to eat at 3-star Michelin restaurants, letting him taste delicacies from all over the world. He loved feeling my abs, saying they felt great, just like a wash board. And I loved kissing his Adam's apple, watching his cheeks flush red as he shivered. We were just as sweet and lovey-dovey as any couple madly in love. Old Wu complained that he was choking to death on our daily PDA. Boss, this is the acquisition proposal for Huanyu Group. It needs your signature. Just leave it there. I need to make some rock sugar pear soup for Yu-chu first. Boss, this is a banquet invitation from the European royalty. Turn it down, I'm taking Yu-chu out to see that newly released movie. Boss, CEO Xiao from the Xiao Group wants to meet you to discuss a collaboration. When Old Wu mentioned CEO Xiao, he cautiously shot me a glance. My hand paused for a second. Xiao Wanqing, that name. I hadn't heard it in a very long time. I asked casually, what does she want with me? Old Wu explained. The Xiao Group has been having cash flow issues lately, and they desperately need a massive injection of capital. They caught wind of our Yifan Fengshan and are looking to partner up. Yifan Fengshan was the investment firm I had Old Wu set up, and it was the most inconspicuous little corner of my massive business empire. But even this little corner was a colossal giant that the Xiao Group had to look up to. Oh, how the tables have turned. That arrogant Ice Queen CEO who once claimed I wasn't good enough for her is now actually coming to beg me for investment? A playful smirk crept onto my lips. Tell her, if she wants to talk, she can come to my imperial kitchen in person. The imperial kitchen was Yu-chu's dessert shop. Old Wu looked completely bewildered. Tell her to bring the proposal, let me see how sincere she is. I really want to see. When Xiao Wanqing sees me and Shin Yu-chu together, when she sees that the worthless loser she once looked down on has now become a presence she has to look up to, what kind of priceless expression will she have on her face? I'm seriously looking forward to this more and more. When Xiao Wanqing arrived, I was in the back kitchen making Shin Yu-chu his favorite crab roe soup dumplings. I was wearing a white chef's uniform, with an apron tied around my waist, and flour all over my hands. Shin Yu-chu, like a little kitten, was hugging my waist from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. As he sneaked a bite of the freshly steamed crab roe, he bossed me around. The folds here don't look pretty, do it again. Ah. They're gonna leak out, you dummy. Well, I guess this one barely passes. The head chef approves. I let her mess around, occasionally turning my head to kiss her cheek. The kitchen was filled with the aroma of food and the sweet air between us. Xiao Wanqing pushed the door open right at that moment. Today, she was wearing a black professional suit. Her hair was combed perfectly as always, but her face showed exhaustion and anxiety. But she was still trying hard to maintain her icy CEO facade. When she saw the scene in front of her, she completely froze. She probably never dreamed that the legendary, mysterious, and all-powerful, behind-the-scenes boss of Yifan Fengshan would turn out to be the loser she once despised the most. And what she expected even less was that this loser was currently wearing an apron in a tiny dessert shop's back kitchen, personally cooking for a girl. And that girl was currently using a territorial posture, intimately hugging him. Xiao Wanqing's face instantly turned pale white. Her usually calm and rational eyes were now filled with shock, confusion, and a hint of embarrassment she didn't even notice herself. President Xiao. You're here. I acted as if I had only just noticed her. I wiped my hands, took off my apron, and gave a lukewarm greeting. Shin Yu-chu also poked her little head out from behind me, curiously looking at Xiao Wanqing. Then, she whispered to me, Ning Yi, who is she? She looks so mean. Just a beggar. I smiled and gently pinched her nose. Shen Yuchu couldn't hold back and laughed out loud. Xiao Wanqing's face instantly went from pale to green, and then from green to red. It was quite a show. She clenched her fists so hard her nails dug deep into her palms. She squeezed a few words through her teeth. Ning Yi, don't go too far. Too far? I raised an eyebrow. President Xiao, if I remember correctly, you were the one who said we had absolutely nothing to do with each other. Now you come knocking on my door. If not to beg, then what are you here for? I pulled Shen Yuchu and walked over to sit at a table outside, placing a steaming basket of Xiaolongbao in front of her. Try some, they are fresh out of the steamer. Only then did I slowly look over at Xiao Wanqing and made a polite gesture. President Xiao, have a seat. What do you want to say? My attitude was dismissive and casual, as if brushing off a completely irrelevant nobody. This was completely different from the business negotiation she had pictured. There was no intense tension, no fierce verbal sparring. There was only a crushing, naked, all-around crushing dominance. Xiao Wanqing took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. She pulled out a chair, sat opposite me, and took out a thick document from her bag, pushing it in front of me. Mr. Ning, this is the Xiao Group's development plan for the next 5 years, along with this financing proposal. I hope. Stop. I raised my hand and interrupted her. President Xiao, you seem to have gotten one thing wrong. What? Right now, you are begging me. I am not begging you. I leaned back in my chair and said slowly, I'm not interested in your plan. I just want to ask you one question. I pointed to Shen Yuchu beside me, and then pointed to myself. Do you think she and I are a good match? Xiao Wanqing's body jolted violently. She looked at me, then looked at the girl beside me, who was taking tiny, happy bites of her soup dumpling, looking completely blissful. Shen Yuchu. Wanqing's lips parted, but she couldn't squeeze out a single word. A good match? That question plunged like a sharp knife straight into her arrogant heart. The man in front of her was handsome, wealthy, and overwhelmingly powerful, yet he was willing to personally cook for an ordinary girl. The doting look in his eyes held a tenderness she had never seen before. And that girl, though plainly dressed, had a pure smile and crystal-clear eyes. She radiated the kind of happiness that only comes from being completely wrapped in love. Just sitting there together, they looked like a perfect painting of peace and tranquility. And what about her? Wearing an expensive designer suit, holding a thick business proposal, sitting here like an absolute clown, begging for just a tiny shred of pity from this man. Once upon a time, it was her standing in front of him, using a condescending tone of charity, telling him to get the hell out of her world. But now, the tables had turned. A massive wave of irony and regret crashed over her, drowning her completely. Her pride and reason were shattered to pieces in that very moment. She struggled to speak, her voice so hoarse it didn't even sound like her own. You two are a perfect match. Oh. Is that so? I chuckled. But I remember someone once calling me a piece of trash, a parasite who wasn't good enough for her. Xiao Wanqing's face lost its very last trace of color. She knew I was humiliating her. I was taking the exact same words she had said to me back then, and throwing them right back in her face without holding back. Ning Yi, I admit, I was completely blind back then. She closed her eyes, seemingly using every ounce of her strength. I apologize to you. But business is business, and personal matters are personal. This collaboration is genuinely crucial for the Su Corporation. I'm begging you, begging me? I cut her off. President Xiao, in what capacity are you begging me? As my ex-fiancé? Or as a defeated loser? Shen Yuchu sat on the sidelines, completely lost in the conversation, but she was smart enough not to interrupt. Instead, she just quietly placed another soup dumpling into my bowl, and then used those clear eyes of hers to give me her silent support. That tiny gesture, however, utterly crushed Xiao Wanqing's last line of defense. She saw that unspoken harmony between us, that deep, soul-binding affection. Something she could never, ever have. She had always believed that what she was chasing was the absolute peak of her career, the ultimate power. But it wasn't until today that she finally realized. When standing at the very top, looking down at everyone else, just how empty and cold her heart truly was. She had won the whole world, but lost the only person who could have ever kept her warm. Ning Yi. She spoke up again, her voice now choked with tears. Please. I'm begging you, okay? She was crying. The forever high and mighty, ice-cold Xiao Wanqing was actually crying. Tears slid down her delicate cheeks, dropping onto the very business proposal she was so proud of, blurring the ink into a messy puddle. I just watched her quietly. There was no thrill of revenge in my heart, only a chilling indifference. In my past life, her tears might have actually softened my heart, but not anymore. I picked up the proposal, didn't even glance at it, and tossed it straight into the trash can next to me. President Xiao. I stood up, looking down at her from above. Just so you know, I have zero interest in acquiring a company that's about to go bankrupt. Especially when the boss of that company is you. With that said, I didn't give her another look. I grabbed Shen Yuchu's hand, turned around, and walked into the back room. Behind me, I could hear Xiao Wanqing's uncontrollable, devastating sobs. I knew that, from this day forward, this woman's pride had been completely crushed by my own hands. And this was just the beginning. Xiao Wanqing left, completely shattered and out of it. I didn't bother paying attention to whatever she did next, because someone even more disgusting showed up at my door. Li Lan, my own biological mother. God knows where she found out about Shen Yuchu's dessert shop, but she came straight here and blocked the entrance. After 10 years, she had aged drastically, looking totally worn out. That woman who once had such lingering charm now had crow's feet crawling all over the corners of her eyes. Her hair was heavily streaked with silver strands. She was wearing cheap flea market knockoffs, and her face was covered in a snobby, scheming look. One look was enough to tell that over the years, she and Zhao Chang had not been living well. In my past life, they took my dad's money and blew it all recklessly. Zhao Chang even got addicted to gambling, and they quickly blew through every penny of their savings. In this life, without that chunk of money from my dad, they were probably having a much, much harder time. The second she saw me, she lunged forward, trying to hug me just like she did 10 years ago. I dodged to the side in total disgust. Xiao Yi. My precious son. Mom finally found you. She started up that whole dramatic, wailing performance of hers again. Just spit it out, I said coldly. If you have nothing to say, get lost. Xiao Yi, how could you talk to your mother like that? Mom knows you still blame me. But back then, Mom had her own painful reasons. Your Uncle Zhao and I have had such a miserable time these past few years. He got scammed doing business, and ended up in massive debt. We can't even afford to put food on the table anymore. Xiao Yi, you're so successful now, you can't just abandon your mother. She started playing the victim, wiping her fake tears as she spoke. Saying that, she was about to drop to her knees. I furrowed my brow. Just then, Shen Yuchu walked out of the shop. Seeing this whole scene, she was a bit overwhelmed. Ning Yi, who is this? Just some irrelevant stranger. I pulled Shen Yuchu behind me, shielding her so she wouldn't be tainted by this filthy mess. Li Lan started screaming, pointing her finger right at Shen Yuchu. What do you mean, irrelevant stranger? I am his mother. His own flesh and blood. And who the hell are you? You little gold-digging tramp, trying to seduce my son for our family's money, aren't you? Shen Yuchu's face turned pale. My expression darkened completely. I spoke word by word, my voice as cold as ice. I'll say it one more time. Get out. I won't. Ning Yi, you have to give me money today. 1 million. No, 10 million. Otherwise, I'm staying right here and I won't leave. I'll even sue you. I'll sue you for abandoning your own biological mother. Li Lan started throwing a massive tantrum, acting completely shameless. She thought I was still that pushover she could just manipulate as she pleased. She thought I would care. About my reputation. About how other people looked at me. She was dead wrong. I looked at her ugly, twisted face and suddenly let out a laugh. All right then, I said. Didn't you say you wanted to sue me? I'll give you the chance. I took out my phone and dialed Old Wu's number again. Old Wu, help me contact Jingqing's very best legal team. And get me in touch with a few of the biggest media outlets too. I'm holding a press conference. The main topic will be me and this biological mother of mine. We're going to settle the score for all these years, once and for all. Li Lan froze. She never expected that, instead of being threatened by her, I was actually going to blow this whole thing up. You wouldn't dare, she bluffed, trying to hide her panic. Just watch me, I sneered, putting my phone away. Li Lan, you've probably forgotten the choice I made 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I could throw you away for the sake of money. 10 years later, I can just as easily ruin your life and destroy your reputation, all just to get some peace and quiet. You love putting on a show, don't you? I'll build you an even bigger stage, so you can act to your heart's content. I stared at her, looking at her like she was nothing but a dead object. Li Lan felt a chill crawl down her spine under my gaze. She finally realized that the son standing right in front of her was no longer someone she could control. He was a monster far colder and far more ruthless than she ever was. She pointed a trembling finger at me, stuttering, You. For a long time. Finally, unable to handle the crushing pressure of the moment, she scrambled away with her tail between her legs. The world was finally quiet again. Shin Yuchu grabbed my hand, her eyes filled with worry. Is she really your mother? She used to be. I grabbed her hand, brought it up to my lips, and gave it a gentle kiss. Not anymore. From now on, you are my only family. Shen. Yuchu looked at me, her eyes welling up with heartbroken tears. She didn't ask anything else. Instead, she stood on her tiptoes and gave me a warm, tight hug. Don't be afraid. I'm here for you now. I held her close, feeling the dark shadows left behind from my past life, being slowly chased away by her warmth. Yeah. I still have her. And that's more than enough. I thought Li Lan would just give up after I scared her off, but I completely underestimated how shameless she could be. A few days later, a massive wave of smear campaigns about me suddenly exploded all over the internet. Mysterious billionaire Ning Yi is a modern-day traitor. Dumps his poor mother to marry into wealth. Shocking scandal. Multi-billionaire built his fortune by leeching off his biological mother. Heartbroken mother cries out, my son was stolen by a home-wrecking vixen. Article after article, filled with fake tears and sob stories, painted me as some ungrateful, greedy jerk who despises the poor and worships the rich. They made me look like an ungrateful backstabber blinded by lust. While Li Lan, on the other hand, became this hard-working, pitiful mother who got cruelly abandoned by her own son. And Shin Yuchu, naturally, became the wicked vixen who destroyed our mother-son bond. They even included a few photos of me and Shin Yuchu out on the streets. The secret photos of us eating at a small roadside diner caused an immediate uproar. Countless clueless netizens were riled up by these fabricated sob stories and launched a massive online witch hunt against me. Wow, my name finally hit the trending page, but for all the wrong reasons. Some of the more radical trolls even managed to dock Shin Yuchu's dessert shop, splashing paint and trashing the front entrance, calling her a shameless homewrecker. Shin Yuchu was absolutely terrified, too scared to open the shop for days. She hid in my arms, crying her eyes out, from all the grievance. I held her, my heart breaking for her. Ning Yi. I didn't do it. I'm not a homewrecker. I know, baby. I know you're not. Don't be afraid, I've got you. The murderous rage in my eyes was stronger than ever before. Li Lan. Zhao Chang. You have seriously crossed the line this time. I was originally just going to let you rot on your own, but you just had to go after the person I care about the most. So don't blame me for being ruthless. I had Lao Wu look into it. The results came back in no time. Unsurprisingly, Li Lan and Zhao Cheng were the ones pulling the strings. They hired a third-rate PR firm, paid off a bunch of internet trolls, and orchestrated this entire dramatic smear campaign. But what really caught me off guard was seeing Xiao Wanqing's shadow in all this. Even though she wasn't directly involved, her PR agency definitely added fuel to the fire in this media war. Ha, great. Just fucking great. One is my shameless biological mother, and the other is my bitter ex-fiancé. Since you two love teaming up so much, I'll just send you both to hell together. I didn't rush to clear my name, nor did I try to take down the trending tags. I just let the outrage simmer. The higher I let them climb, the harder they would fall. 3 days later, right when the internet's hatred towards me reached its absolute peak, I held the press conference I had specially prepared for Li Lan. The venue was the capital's most luxurious 7-star hotel, right in their biggest banquet hall. I invited over 100 mainstream media outlets from across the country. The scale was completely unprecedented. I even made sure Li Lan was there in person. She probably thought I was finally caving in and ready to pay her off. She wore this smug grin on her face. Xiao Wanqing showed up too, sitting quietly in a hidden corner, waiting to see how I'd clean up this mess. Dressed in a sharp, tailored suit, I held Shinyochu's hand and walked up to the podium. She was nervous, her palms were completely sweaty. I gave her a reassuring smile as the camera flashes went absolutely crazy. I cleared my throat, leaned into the sea of microphones and cameras, and spoke my very first words. Hello, everyone. I am Ning Yi. I invited you all here today to tell you a story about choices. I told them the story of what happened when I was 10 years old, exactly as it happened. From my father's will, to Li Lan's threats, all the way to the final choice I had to make. I spoke with complete calmness, without a single ounce of emotion, as if I were simply narrating a story that had nothing to do with me. But the entire hall had fallen into a dead, heavy silence. All the reporters were completely stunned. They probably never expected that the actual truth would be such an earth-shattering twist. Li Lan's face instantly turned deathly pale. She tried to rush forward and argue, but was pinned down hard by the bodyguards I had arranged. Of course, talk is cheap. I snapped my fingers. The giant screen behind me lit up. It started playing an audio recording. That was from 10 years ago, right at the morning hall, the exact words Li Lan whispered in my ear to threaten me. Ning Yi. If you dare spout nonsense, I'll beat you to death. You are my son. Your money is my money. The voice was crystal clear. It was something I had lawyer Zhou pull from the voice recorder he carried around back then. My dad was naturally suspicious when he was alive, so lawyer Zhou recorded all the conversations at the time, just in case. Never expected it would actually come in handy today. As soon as the recording played, the whole room erupted in an uproar. The reporters' camera flashes were all aimed at Li Lan, whose face looked like death. Li Lan screamed frantically. This is fake. It's AI generated. I chuckled. Fake? Then is this one fake too? The big screen switched and started playing a video. It was less than 1 month after my dad passed away. The footage showed Li Lan and Zhao Cheng raising their glasses to celebrate in a high-end restaurant. Lan, see? I told you, that kid is a total idiot. He was definitely going to choose you. He's the son I gave birth to, of course I'd know him. Once we get our hands on those 200 million, we're going to travel the world. Come on, cheers to our beautiful future. In the video, the two of them were smiling so radiantly, it was absolutely blinding. This video was something I had used some special methods to recover from that restaurant's security cameras. It was ironclad evidence, solid as a mountain. Li Lan couldn't talk her way out of this anymore. Like a puddle of mud, she completely collapsed onto the floor. I'm not done yet, I said coldly. The big screen continued to display new evidence. Zhao Cheng's heavy gambling IOUs, the records of them selling off my dad's belongings, and even neighbor testimonies of how they abused me when I was young. Every single piece was absolutely shocking. Her so-called loving mother act, her so-called hidden struggles, in the face of these ironclad facts, turned into one massive, sick joke. The entire press conference turned into a brutal public execution for Li Lan and Zhao Chang. And from beginning to end, I remained nothing but a cold, calm bystander. Finally, the big screen froze on a single document. A severance of mother and son relationship. Declaration. I picked up the microphone. I, Ning Yi, formally announce right here and now. My voice echoed through the entire venue. From today onwards, I am severing all ties and relations with Ms. Li Lan. From now on, whether in sickness or health, life or death, weddings or funerals, we have absolutely nothing to do with each other. Additionally, I paused, my gaze sweeping toward Xiao Wanqing in the corner. Regarding the malicious rumors and vicious slander against me, and my fiancé, Shen Yuchu, my legal team will pursue maximum legal action against all individuals and organizations involved. And that includes the public relations company, under the Xiao Group. Xiao Wanqing's body jolted violently. He raised his head, meeting my freezing gaze. All the color drained from his face. He knew exactly what this was. I was declaring war on him. And he also knew, he had completely lost. A total and utter defeat. The press conference made the front page headlines of every single media outlet that night. Public opinion flipped in an instant, with endless hashtags bombarding the trending searches. Li Lan and Zhao Chang became public enemies, despised and cursed at by absolutely everyone. Not only did they have to face heavy moral condemnation, they also had to face the brutal wrath of the law. Fraud, child abuse, and forging evidence, that was enough to lock them away for life. The Xiao Group was also completely dragged down by the scandal. Their stock prices plummeted 30% overnight, bringing them to the absolute brink of bankruptcy. Xiao Wanqing was a total wreck. She ran around begging for help, only to have doors slammed in her face at every single turn. No one dared to cross me right now. She finally got a taste of what it felt like to be completely abandoned, and utterly alone, with enemies closing in on all sides. A few days later, I got a call from someone I never expected. It was Xiao Wanqing. Her voice was no longer ice cold, instead, it was incredibly exhausted and hoarse. Ning Yi, I lost. That was the very first thing she said. I'm not calling to beg you to let me off the hook. I just want to ask you one question. Go ahead. If I hadn't broken off the engagement back then, would you have? No. I cut her off without a single second of hesitation. Xiao Wanqing, you never once truly stepped into my world, and you never possibly could. Because you never actually understood who I am. You only ever saw what you wanted to see. And the only thing you ever loved, was your own twisted illusion of a powerful man. But from the very beginning, all I ever wanted was to be an ordinary guy, just cooking meals for the woman I love. The other end of the line fell into a long, dead silence. Finally, I heard a faint sound, almost like a heart breaking. I understand. I hung up the phone. I knew right then and there, that this woman would never, ever bother me again for the rest of my life. She might find her own way to rebuild her business empire, but her world will forever be missing a crucial puzzle piece, a piece called true happiness. As for me, I found my happiness a long time ago. I turned off my phone, and turned around, walking right into the kitchen. Shen Yuchu was wearing that cute little Winnie the Pooh apron I had bought for her. She was humming a happy little tune, clumsily trying her best to wrap dumplings, getting her adorable face completely covered in flour. When she saw me walk in, she beamed at me with the biggest, brightest smile. Hey, Mr. Landlord, hurry up and help me. Your royal head chef is really craving some 3 delicacy dumplings today. The warm sunlight poured in right through the window, shining beautifully onto her cute little face. It felt so incredibly warm and perfect. I walked over and wrapped my arms around her from behind. I planted a soft kiss right on her flower-covered nose. Your wish is my command, my beautiful queen. Wealth, power, revenge. None of those things mattered anymore in this perfect moment. All I ever wanted was to hold the girl right in front of me, to cook for her and protect her smile. Every single day. Being reborn into this life, I spent 200 million to completely sever all ties with my past. But I never expected that in the end, would win back the entire world, a beautiful world with her in it.